Good evening. The old man here, November 29th, 2024. This evening, I'd like to talk about the stock market and can it really crash with all the fail-safes in place. This video was inspired by a channel named Nobody 11010. Hope you're watching tonight, buddy. I've got very few notes on this one, actually. This could go just about anywhere. Talking about the markets being manipulated, some, especially if you watch gold and silver channels at all, they'll tell you how heavily manipulated gold and silver is. And I agree with them. I think it is heavily manipulated, but so is everything else. In reality, gold and silver is money. Everything else is debt. Just no two ways around it. That gold and silver, that's it. That's money. This debt note we call the dollar is convenient. That's how we wound up with it. And we're going to pay for convenience. That's all there is to it. We've been paying for convenience. We don't want heavy gold coins in our pocket or heavy silver in our pocket. We don't want to store gold. We don't want to store silver. We're made to believe that we got to be afraid of somebody stealing it from us if we got it here at home. And that's real. I mean, yeah, you do got to worry about it, but there's nothing saying you can't have your gold and silver in 2, 3, 4, 5 different places with maybe people you trust or hidden in different places. You could buy a decent safe and you could store it, and it'd be safe. But honestly, we've been manipulated for a long time. And it starts with manipulating the money. You can't manipulate the rest of it very effectively unless you manipulate the money. This gentleman brings up the fact that anymore, I was talking about the stock market crashing, and he says anymore with all the fail-safes in the stock market, can it really crash? If it drops so many points, they're going to stop the market for X amount of time. And if it drops some more, then they're going to stop it again. And he's absolutely correct. There's all kinds of fail-safes built in. And the reason for that is they need to be able to manipulate it. They don't want the market to crash. And sometimes they really can't control it naturally. They have to use these fail-safes to control it. But they won't let this market crash until they're ready for it to crash. Some will even say we're in an everything bubble. We'll get the housing market in a bubble due to inflation. Housing just got stupid. And wages haven't kept up with it. If wages kept up with it, it wouldn't matter how much the houses were if your wages went up in the same amount of percentage, but obviously they didn't. But going all the way back to the first Federal Reserve Bank, or the first Reserve Bank, I should say, it was all about manipulating the money. Other governments have done it throughout the years. The kings, they want more money. They want more control. They manipulate the money. Everything from, taking more and more silver or gold out of a coin. Back when coins were gold and silver, they've manipulated that money back in them days just to have more power. They're basically stealing your wealth. They've been doing this for thousands of years. We just don't realize it. And this time around, and with inflation, inflation's a funny thing. We don't think of it, we may think of it as the prices of our, our gas going up or our fuel or our groceries going up. But in reality, you take inflation and you look at your 401k, let's say, or you look at your stock account, and you say, boy, the numbers are going up. I'm doing really good. I'm doing really good. Are you? Have you taken the time to figure out what inflation has been, let's say, in the last 5 years? Not what they tell you it is, but go back, again, I'm going to say shadow stats. Go back to shadow stats and at least figure out what inflation was 5 years ago and what compounded, how much it's gone up. And I'll bet you if you do that, you'll find that your portfolio or your 401k or whatever hasn't gone up that much. The inflation has gone up more. And in fact, you'll probably find that it's gone up a lot more. So is your 401k worth more? Is your portfolio worth more? No, the numbers are higher. That's it. But it fools you into thinking that you're doing well because the numbers are going up. I'm doing okay. One of the reasons gold especially, but also silver, because no matter what, even though we've taken it out of our coinage, it's still thought of as a money metal. The reason they have to be heavily manipulated because a sure sign of a currency, a fiat currency failing is the price of gold and silver going up. And again, I'm saying price, not value. There's a difference. The price is going up. That shows that the dollar actually is going down. That is a clear indication that the dollar is going down. So they must manipulate it. They must keep that gold as reasonably priced as possible. Now, again, I said it went up 600% over the last 20 years. So that's a lot. 600% is a lot, okay? But just think if it wasn't manipulated. Think of what it would be today if this was a free market, where gold would actually be if they weren't standing in the way. But they need to manipulate your stocks to make you think you're doing better than you really are. They need to make you think that inflation's not as bad as it is. They need to make you think that your gold and silver isn't doing, it's not storing your wealth. See, look at these stocks going up. NVIDIA, that I like to pick on, has gone up by God only knows what percent. And has your gold done that? No. But in reality, your gold is holding value. Yes, the price is going up, true, but it's in fiat dollars. But your gold is still got value. Remember what I said about NVIDIA, it's overvalued. There is no value. When your PE ratio is, and I just looked it up too just a little bit ago. I want to say your PE ratio in NVIDIA is something like 56 to 1. 50 something to 1, I can tell you that for sure. That means the earnings on NVIDIA at its current rate would take you, so you buy one stock and the earnings you get on that stock, it would take you 50 years to break even, just to come even. So you got your value. Now, mind you, you'd still have the stock at the end of the day, but still, it's going to take 50 plus years to break even on that stock, where it pays you back what you paid for the stock. Okay, so that means that you're actually waiting for the stock to go up, and some fool is willing to pay more than you are. You're not going to hold on to that stock for 50 years, I can guarantee you that. So it has no real value. You're hoping for somebody to bid it up. That's all you can do. You're hoping, you're gambling that somebody is going to pay more than you did. And that's going to keep going on for a while till it don't. gold, when all else fails, what are the majority of the world going to use for backup? When everything else goes to hell in a handbasket, they're going to go to gold, and partially silver too, because silver's a smaller market. It'll raise faster. It'll stay, it'll hold its own until it just shoots to the moon, But price-wise, not value-wise. Value, it'll hold its value. But it'll get pushed to overvalued status, at some point when everybody's falling back from these stocks. And, the housing bubble, when it breaks, they're going to have to, when that housing bubble breaks, people are going to, try to dump that housing however they can. Some will lose money. The banks are going to crash. That's the thing. You got a housing bubble. You got a bank bubble, if you will. I don't know if it's really could be considered a bubble, but it's in big trouble. Let's put it that way. So, and you got a stock bubble. There's just no doubt about it. Like I said the other day, the Russell 2000, 48% of those companies are zombie companies. Are you invested in one of them zombie companies? You probably are without even knowing it. Are you invested in more than one of those companies? You probably are and you don't even know it. A lot of those companies are held in ETFs that cover a broad range of stocks. You're probably bought into one or more of them stocks and have no clue. So, the stocks, especially the values, you just keep seeing the numbers going up, and it just doesn't have value. The numbers are going higher, but the stock does not have value anymore. I don't even know what more to say about that. We're going to see a time, I think, near future, some are thinking further down the road, that the Fed can actually kick this can down the road. And by God, I don't think so, but I've been wrong before. They kicked it down the road. They've kicked it down the road since 2008. I mean, they've kicked it down the road a lot farther than that. They've been bandaging this thing up, making it look good for many years. And they just keep, with the numbers, they just keep shifting the numbers, and they keep making people think that they're okay. When in reality, things are worse every time. Every crisis, they have to print more money or inject more dollars into the system to prop it up. Well, every time they inject more money into the system, that's inflation of the money supply. What does that mean for gold and silver? It's got more value. It's going to raise in value. So at some point, you're going to push it past its real value, because all of that money from all these different bubbles got to go somewhere. And at the end of the day, all these governments know that when all else fails, you got to have something to back up on. And the person or the country with the most gold makes the rules. At that time, in a total reset, that's what it's going to be. And honestly, they might be able to kick this can down the road. I don't know how, but the only thing that's been keeping this thing together for all these years is that the majority of the people still have faith in the dollar. Well, I don't know when that day is coming, and I'm sure it'll happen slowly over time. But at some point, people are going to lose faith in the dollar, and they're going to have to put their wealth somewhere else. Okay? And some people are going to put it into things like stocks. Some people are going to put it into things like housing, thinking they're saving their wealth, when in reality, they're not. The numbers are getting higher, but is the value getting higher? No, it's not. You know, that's just like your stocks. If your stocks, the numbers are getting higher, but it really, that number doesn't buy you what it used to, because let's say your stock portfolio has gone up by, let's just say 30% in the last 5 years, but inflation in total has gone up 45%. Are you any farther ahead? No, you're not. Okay. Your dollar figure is larger than it used to be in your stock portfolio or your 401k, but the value isn't any more than it was. In fact, it's probably backing up every year. It's getting less and less valuable. You go to some of these countries with hyperinflation, and that's what you get when the populace loses faith in that fiat currency. You get hyperinflation, and with hyperinflation, watch the stock markets. Look at the stock market charts of any of those countries. It goes to the moon. It goes straight up in a straight line, straight up. But there's no value. It's just a higher number. That's it. The thing about the dollar is, unlike any other currency, it's a world currency. It's just not a country currency. So it's being used worldwide as a tier 1 asset to offset other assets, some of which may be falling, and they're all falling, but the dollar's falling, but this other stuff's falling faster, so they're still holding on to their dollars. Well, in most countries, when the populace realizes that their currency is hyperinflating, or they lose faith in their currency, it hyperinflates, and basically you're on the road to nowhere. Okay, well, in our case, the dollar is a world reserve currency. We're going to hold out a little longer because it's going to take a little longer for the world to realize that the dollar is ill-fated, and it's going to come to a close sooner or later. And they're going to try to get rid of their dollars as fast as they can get rid of their dollars, and therefore, again, hyperinflation. So I think we'll be one of the last ones to really feel it. I think you're going to see countries all over the world. In fact, we already are seeing countries all over the world and their fiat currencies failing. But when you get to the point where, like the European Union, their euro goes to hell, and that's a big part of that area is that European Union. It's game over for the euro. It'll go fast once they figure that out. And then, yeah, a lot of countries are going to, if you're in that area and the euro's hyperinflating and the dollar's not, or at least not as bad as your currency, then you'll go to the dollar. You'll use the dollar as a backup. But then as other currencies crash and they go to the dollar, sooner or later, everybody's going to figure out, well, okay, the dollar's crashing too, just not as fast as our currency is. Well, maybe I don't want a dollar either. Maybe I want gold. And when I say gold, silver's right in there too. But again, I really don't know how long they can make this last. They've made it last a long time. 2008 was pretty damn serious, but yet, unless you were heavily into finances, you probably realized it was a rough spot in the road, but you never really realized how bad it was and how close we were to major disaster. And we're so much closer to that now. Last time it was a housing bubble. The banks, well, yeah, they got bailed out, but it wasn't what it was. It's not like it is today. And then at that time, actually, China was able to bail us out by buying a bunch of our bonds. They're not going to do that anymore. In fact, they're selling bonds to try and prop up their currency. The Japanese, of which also buy a lot of our bonds, they're going to need, and they have been selling bonds in order to prop up their currency. Well, that's going to happen all over the world. They're going to have to sell bonds, U.S. bonds, that is. They're going to have to sell their U.S. bonds to prop up their currency. So basically going to see a death spiral, first of all those currencies, but then last but not least, the American dollar, the last of the fiat currencies. And somewhere along that lines, the price of gold in the futures market isn't going to mean shit. You're not going to care what the spot price of gold is. It's going to be whatever you have to pay to get it. And of course, these countries are going to be the first ones after it, and you'd be lucky to even be able to find gold to buy. And what happens in that kind of a panic? People panic and they pay, or they trade their dollars, insane amount of dollars, for an ounce of gold. We've seen it during here. Again, I've mentioned before, I've got a gun shop, and I'm not promoting my gun shop on this channel. I'm not at all, but I will reference it once in a while. During the pandemic, ammo was super hard to get. They were only at one point, for I'd say even a couple years, they were only making 9mm and 5.56. And honestly, I seen a box of 9mm in 1 year, just a box of 9, 50 rounds, selling on sale for about, let's say, $12.50-ish on sale if you bought it in bulk, go to as high as $50 a box. Now, it wasn't everywhere, but you could easily, if you wanted any amount of 9mm, you were going to pay $40 a box. And in some cases, they were getting 50. So I've also seen in 2012, when we went through, everybody's worried they were going to ban guns and everything else, and whatever. There was a big panic in 2012, just about the time I moved from one store location to the next store location. I seen a brick of 500 rounds of .22 ammo sell for $100 on auction sites. I was involved in one auction. I was helping a guy. He didn't have an FFL, but he was having a big auction that involved 300 guns, I think. And so he needed a FFL dealer there to handle the transactions of the firearms. But I was watching it. He had, he had bricks of .22 ammo, 500 rounds of .22 ammo, and not one of those bricks sold for less than $100. Some sold for a little bit more, but not one of them sold for less than $100. That's because people thought they needed it, and they didn't know when they were going to be able to get it, if ever. And since it was there in front of them, oh well, what's $100 for a box of 22 or for a brick of 22 shells? In 2011, you could have bought that same brick of shells for $20, $22 at the most. It went from $22 a brick to $100 a brick. So when there's a panic, what do you think an ounce of silver is going to do? The spot price doesn't matter. Back here a little while ago, when them banks in California crashed, spot was on silver was roughly $25, give or take. It might have been a little less than 25, but let's call it $25 with spot. They're selling silver American Eagles for as much as $48 and $50 because people thought they needed it and didn't know when they were ever going to be able to get it. We better get it now, and they were paying almost, and in some cases, 100% over spot. You don't think that's going to happen again? You know, they're going to try to manipulate the paper market or the futures market and keep gold and silver as low as they can to try and make the dollar look good, or as good as it can. But what do you think physical gold and physical silver is going to do? I don't know. I don't know. But when the world's falling apart and you're going to have wars all over Europe, I believe, uh, you're going to have, if not wars, you'll have riots, people protesting their governments and everything else, because they're still awfully heavy-handed over there with all their all this New World Order bullshit that they're still dealing with. Hopefully, we're over it. As soon as we get Trump inaugurated, that shit's coming to an end. But we're going to see a lot, and then people are going to, the more of that kind of stuff that happens all over the world, the more people and governments are going to want gold and silver. Harder it's going to be come by. And when the psychology is that I don't know when I'll be able to get it, I better pay whatever I got in my hand or whatever I can put on a credit card or whatever, watch it go through the roof. And it's not necessarily going to be the spot price. You watch what the premiums are. And you'll see, I believe, you'll see gold and silver going from triple, maybe even quadruple its spot price. Spot price doesn't mean anything at that time. You're separating the paper gold or the paper silver will be separated from the physical, and everybody's going to want the physical. They're not going to want the paper gold. They're not going to want the paper silver at that point. So I don't know. My thoughts on the subject. They will continue to heavily manipulate everything, including the markets. My recommendation, well, I ain't going to recommend anybody do anything, actually. What I'm doing is I'm stacking physical, gold and silver. So my thoughts for tonight, guys. Again, I thank you for stopping by. I appreciate the comments. It really does help me come up with thoughts on or directions, I should say, to go in different videos. It helps a lot. I appreciate it if you like and subscribe and kind of help me get this channel out to other people. I just want people to be informed, and the more people out there doing what we're doing here, I just think it's better. I think more people, even if, you know, I even get 2-3 people a week to look at gold and silver different than they did yesterday. That's awesome. Get people out there, start doing your own research, doing the deep dives that I've done. Remember, I haven't been in gold and silver more than, well, I started really July 4th of, this is 24, it'd been July 4th of 22. Yes, July 4th of 23. July 4th of 23? Yeah, July 4th of 23 actually is when I started in on my journey with gold and silver. And I'd been doing some deep dives before that, but that's when I actually pulled the trigger, was on the 4th of July, 2023. That's when I started buying my gold and silver. I've been doing quite a bit of research prior to that, but so wish y'all well. Thank you. Have a good night. Bye.